Ladies and gentlemen, the arbitral tribunal is now entered the hearing room. Please rise.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mr. President.
This arbitration hearing was officially opened at 9 a.m. at the The Hague time on the 11th June 2025. In this case, between the Republic of Italy and the Republic of India, regarding an accident that occurred in the High Sea of the Indian Ocean, widely known as the Enrica Lake Sea incident. I, as the chair of the arbitration panel, beginning this hearing by stating the process will be conducted fairly, equitably, and accordance with the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. This case touched an important issue in international maritime law, including first, criminal jurisdiction in exclusive economic zone, second, immunity of state military personnel outside its territory. Before turning it over to the parties, I will ask to make it register to summarize the procedure and to read out the submission of the parties with respect of jurisdiction of arbitral tribunal as well as bias of Italy claim and Indian claim. For Mr. Register, please.
Member of the arbitral tribunal, the representative of the parties, good morning and welcome to this hearing in the matter of the Italian Republic versus Republic of India, the Enrica Lake Sea incident, registered as PCA case number 2015-28. This arbitration is conducted under Annex 7 of the UNCLOS. Today's hearing is held at the Permanent Court of Arbitration. The hearing is now formally opened. Before we proceed to the parties' opening submissions, allow me to present a brief summary of the factual background and procedural history of the case. This arbitration arises out of an incident that occurred on 15 February 2012, approximately 20.5 nautical miles off the coast of Kerala, India, involving the Italian flag, oil tanker MV Enrica Lake Sea, and Indian fishing vessel San Antonio. Two Italian Marines, Chief Master Sergeant Massimiliano Latorre and Sergeant Salvatore Girone, were on the board the Enrica Lake Sea as part of a vessel protection detachment deployed by the Italian government to protect against piracy. During the incident, two Indian fishermen aboard the San Antonio were shot and killed. India asserted that the Marines unlawfully fired upon unarmed fishermen within its exclusive economic zone and initiated criminal proceedings against them in its court. Italy, on the other hand, claimed that the Marines act in official capacity and yet India has violated the international law, particularly UNCLOS by asserting criminal jurisdiction over foreign state officials and interfering with Italy's flag state rights. The Italian Republic, as claimant, seeks a declaration that India violated multiple provisions of UNCLOS, including Article 87, 92, 97, 100, and 300. India must cease all legal proceedings and compensate Italy for the detention of its vessels and the restriction of liberty imposed on the Marines. The Republic of India, as respondent, contend that the Italy action violated India's sovereign right in its EEZ, the use of force resulting in the deaths of two Indian nationals entitled India to represent. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Register. Before that, please introduce yourself to the parties present in the forum. For the plaintiff, Republic of Italy, please.
Mr. President, members of the tribunal, I'm Rian Farah, representing the Republic of Italy, joined by my two colleagues beside me, Ms. Adinda Rahma and Mr. Fahmi Munandar. We would like to thank the tribunal for this opportunity and stand ready to present our case with respect for the law and peaceful dispute resolution.
Thank you. For the next, the respondent, Republic of India, is.
Thank you, Mr. President. members of the tribunal, I, Nadi Prianto, appears as the agent of Republic of India. And beside me, Mrs. Flovi Adina and Mrs. Selvin Agnia. Thank you.
Thank you. With this, we will beginning the substantive stage of the trial. I invite the agent of Italy to deliver his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. President. We would like to begin by outlining the context of Enrica Lansing incident that occurred on February 15, 2012. Italian Marines tasked with protecting the vessel from piracy threats took action in response to a high-risk situation within India's exclusive economic zone. In this context, we assert that the actions of our Marines were in accordance with international legal provisions and the principle of state immunity. We believe that India's jurisdiction in this case violates international maritime law, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS.
Thank you. After that, the Indian representative will be given an equal opportunity. I would also like to remind that all statements and evidence submitted by comply with the international legal framework in the particular Article 92 and Article 97 of UNCLOS, which are at the heart of the difference of interpretation in this case. For Republic of India, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. India appears today to defend its sovereign right, to uphold international law, and above all, to seek justice for the unjustified deaths of 2 Indian nationals. This case is not about a navigation error. It is not about piracy. It is about 2 unarmed fishermen who were shot and killed on an Indian flag vessel in India EEZ. India has acted with restraint in accordance with UNCLOS and international legal standards.
Okay, we have heard for the both country argument. There are 2 main questions that tribunal is concerned with. First, does Italy have exclusive jurisdiction over fall under the principle of the state immunity and state special jurisdiction? Second, does the action taken by Marines constitute a violation of international law or of Indian right within jurisdiction of exclusive economic zone (EEZ)? Let us now proceed with the first argument from each side. Italy, please begin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Based on Article 87, 92, 100, and 105 on UNCLOS, we assert that Italy had the right to operate in international waters and that our Marines' actions were defensive measures in accordance with established norms. International law establishes that preventive action is response to genuine threats such as piracy is justified and protected. Furthermore, we will present evidence that our Marines were operating under lawful instructions to protect the vessel and its crew in a situation that endangered both personal and public safety.
Thank you, Agent of Italy. Or Agent of India, please begin.
India reaffirms that the incident within its EEZ 20.5 nautical miles of the Canal of under Article 56 of UNCLOS, India will sovereign rights in the zone, including the decision of America in the enforcement of its criminal law. Kali invoked Article 97 on navigational incident. By this was an accident, it was a deliberate shooting. Thus, Article 97 is not vessel. Defined by Italian law, violated India's rights under Article 58 paragraph 3. This obligation of vessel is with the legal framework of the class of state.
Mr. President, Italy claims that the Marines act in their official capacity and are therefore immune from persecution, but functional immunity cannot be invoked for unlawful acts against civilians outside the context of war or peacekeeping. This was not a military operation. It was an act of armed aggression. The victims were not pirates, but ordinary fishermen. Italy's argument would justify soldiers to kill civilians in foreign waters without accountability. That is not and must never be the law.
Interesting. Let us now proceed the submission of evidence. Italy, do you have any evidence to present?
Yes, Mr. President. To support and reinforce our legal arguments, I would like to submit 2 key documents as part of our evidence.
Yes.
Agent of Italy, you may proceed.
First, we submit an official report from United Nations containing an analysis of maritime security conditions in Eastern Indian Ocean at the time of the incident. This report explains that the area, including the waters where the incident occurred, was categorized as a high-risk zone for piracy by armed groups. Therefore, the preventive actions took by our Marines were a legitimate and proportionate response for real and identified threats. Second, we present statements from international maritime authorities, including guidelines from the Best Management Practice 4 or BMP4, which explicitly authorize armed security personnel on merchant vessels to take defensive actions, including the use of limited force when facing potential pirate attacks. We believe that these two documents strongly support our claim that the Marines acted professionally in accordance with international law in compliance with the principle of proportionality and precaution required in such situations.
Thank you, Agent Ashley. Agent of India, do you have any evidence to present?
Mr. President, members of the tribunal, with your permission, the Republic of India would like to present a set of evidence that have already been mentioned in our written submission. This document includes the certification of St. Anthony 66 eyewitness statement, a communication box from a narcissist in Mumbai, a forensic ballistic report, and autopsy report confirming the trajectory of the fatal shots. This document proves that the incident was not an act of self-defense, but rather an unlawful use of force against the SAEZ.
Senator. Thank you. Court parties have submitted relevant evidence. We will process to consider the material in the next session. For now, let us take this opportunity to further examine the argument presented.
Mr. President, we wish to emphasize once again that our men, Massimiliano Latorre and Salvatore Birra, were carrying out official duties on board the Erling Galaxy as part of an internationally recognized anti-piracy operation. In this context, their action must be regarded as the conduct of that official within the scope of their official function, and therefore should be fully protected under the well-established principle of state immunity.
Mr. President, it is important to remember that this operation was a response to threats to the safety of the vessel in the region of piracy. Therefore, the decisions made in the situation were based on real risk assessment on the ground.
Thank you, agents of the police, you said immunity and official capacity, but in an incident involving civilian deaths across jurisdiction, how does this align with accountability under international law? Where do you draw the line between state duty and individual responsibility in such case? And also regarding your risk assessment, what specific indicators justify immediate defensive action? And given the sensitivity and clarity on the threat threshold is essential to evaluate both the legality and proportionality of the merit response.
Thank you, Mr. President. The merits acted under official state's order, which grants a functional immunity under international law, accountability, if analyzed with state, not the individual. As for the trend, the vessel showed patterns typical of piracy, fast approach, no will ID, no response. The merits follow standing rules of engagement to protect the crew from vessels usually seen as an immediate danger.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Agent of India, any argument?
Mr. President, the account of the documents include an official in anti-terrorism, which does not automatically grant partial recognition. The national jurisprudence establishes that international maritime does not apply to unlawful articles and not made for installation of human rights. The incident occurred in India's EEZ during this time, following the fatal shooting of two Armenian personnel on a civilian vessel. It was a crisis situation where a battlefield, not imminent threat, thus invoking state immunity in these circumstances is to rely on sound and only indefensible.
Mr. President, we acknowledge the need to respond swiftly to emerging threat, but the right to self-defense cannot override the duty to verify. Sworn testimonies and forensic evidence show that there was no warning, no radio contact, and no threat from the St. Anthony. The Marines act on assumption, not confirmation. Under international law, especially outside the conflict zone, the use of force must meet the test of necessity and proportionality. Here, neither was fulfilled. The Marines used lethal force based on misidentification, an error that claimed 2 lives. Such conduct cannot and should not be shielded by legal immunity.
Okay, thank you, Agent of India. So I want to ask, Thus, the Republic of India acknowledged that any galaxy was located beyond India's territorial water, specifically beyond 12 nautical miles from the baseline at the time of the incident. If not, could you please provide precise evidence based on navigational data?
The Republic of India acknowledges that the activity was personally 25 nautical miles from India's territorial incident, but it is easy. Unlike the 56 UNCLOS, India has sovereign rights and duties under the AEC, especially regarding land protection and criminal law enforcement. This accusation is that the navigational data already allows for international human rights, confirming the vessel coordinates within the AEC, where India's rights are engaged and international laws are affected.
Mr. President, we fully respect Indian concern, but let us look at the fact. Our marine had clear instruction to operate within the framework of international law that permits protection against real threats. This incident should be viewed in the context of legitimate protection.
Mr. President, we acknowledge the state may issue standing instruction to protect the vessel, but the use of force at sea is not absolute. It must follow the principle of necessity, proportionality, and accountability. The facts are clear. The Saint Anthony was a slow-moving wooden fishing boat that was not treated. The Italian Marine fired a warning from distance as we were civilian with no hostile intent. This was not a lawful protection. It was an excessive and irresponsible act of violence that caused 2 deaths and falls outside the bound of legal justification under international law.
We understand and we agree that the action was proportional. However, considering the risk and threats present in that region, we believe our Marine's decision was a justified measures to ensure safety. They were carrying out legitimate duty at the time. And let us also consider the impact of this decision on the bilateral relation between Italy and India. We are committed to open dialogue and finding a solution that benefits both sides without compromising any legal responsibility.
Okay. General Kuli, you have emphasized both of the principle of proportionality and legitimacy of your marine's action in light of regional threats, as well as the importance of maintaining good bilateral relations. However, we would like to ask what specific operational guidelines or rules of engagement were in place to ensure that the use of force was indeed the last and the most appropriate option at that moment. And given the civilian's casualty involved such detailed are essential to assess whether proportionality was genuinely upheld in practice. Furthermore, while your commitment to dialogue is noted, and how does your approach reconcile the need for political goodwill with a clear framework of accountability, especially when questions of sovereignty and the loss of human life are central to this dispute?
Thank you for your question, Mr. President. Regarding operational guidelines, the Marines acted under official Italian rules of engagements consistent with international protocols such as PMB4, which prioritize non-lethal measures. These include visual acoustic warnings before any use of force. Lethal force was also authorized only as a last resort. And in this case, those employed responsible behavior, such as piracy threats in high-risk area. As for the Council on Political Goodwill and Accountability, Italy deeply regrets the loss of the life and acknowledged its seriousness. However, we emphasize that our Marines, as state officials performing state duties, are protected with the principle of functional immunity, and any legal responsibility must fall under the Italian jurisdiction. In accordance with UNCLOS, our approach seeks to uphold international legal norms while remaining open to constructive dialogue. Italy is prepared to engage in discussion regarding reparation or cooperation, provided they are consistent with the legal frameworks that govern this dispute.
Mr. President, while Italy imposed proportionality, we must ask proportional to what? The St. Anthony was unarmed, not aggressive, and posed no threat. The Marines responded not to aggression, but to misperception using lethal force. Mistaken identity does not justify irresponsible action. No rules of engagement, national or international, permit shooting civilians without confirmed danger. Under international law, responsibility arises not only from intent, but also from outcome. And here, the outcome is vital.
India presents that commitment to dialogue and mutual respect. We too fellow our bilateral relationship and any diplomatic path forward must be rooted in accountability. Dialogue must not become a substitute for justice. We will have a constructive approach. However, resolution without recognition of responsibility undermines the very legal order we are bound to uphold. Reconciliation must include truth, acknowledgement, and concrete measures to prevent reassurance or not fake reassurance alone.
Another question. agent of Italy, how does India address the claim of functional immunity for the two Italian Marines considering they were operating in official capacity on behalf of India, of the Italian state?
India acknowledges functional immunity, but argues it does not apply here. The two Italian Marines used lethal force against an armed Indian civilian aboard a fishing vessel in India's EEZ, resulting in the death of two Indian nationals. This act was unlawful and disproportionate, not protected under international law. Additionally, the Marines were on a commercial private vessel, not a military ship, blurring the line between state and private action. India asserts that such conduct violating human rights fall outside functional immunity, and it retains jurisdiction to pursue legal accountability.
Fully take into account what you have said. We propose that we discuss compensation as part of this resolution. By offering compensation, we also commit to reform and reform our dedication to cooperation.
It's very encouraging to hear that parties are open to dialogue and cooperation. And are there any argument that could be considered to ensure preventive measure in the future?
Yes, Mr. President.
Cooperation in information exchange and strengthening security protocol would be valuable action.
Mr. President, we agree that learning from this incident is essential. We are open to develop new protocols that can help Italian Marines and Indian authorities act in closer alignment with fair conditions and optimize response to potential threats.
Mr. President, India will also be the initiative of the dialogue for developing solutions. We are open to deeper cooperation with Italy and American security, addressing the areas of concern. And we want to follow our views of joint training, build-up communication channels, and shared threat assessments. Above all, it must be rooted in political for legal norms, human life, and accountability. Only then will it prevent operational coordination, lasting trust between our nations.
Okay, let's take us out of this agreement. That on the argument present, the good parties agree to reach a settlement that includes compensation and concrete preventive measures to avoid similar incident in the future.
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. President, distinguished member of Tribunal, and our esteemed colleagues from the Republic of India, on behalf of the Italian delegation, I would like to express our sincere appreciation for the spirit of dialogue and mutual respect shown throughout these proceedings. We believe that this agreement reflects not only a shared commitment to international law, but also a genuine willingness to move forward as responsible partners. We are confident that the resolution of the dispute, grounded in legal principles, accountability, and goodwill, will serve as a model for peaceful and principled international cooperation. We are agreed to commit to a solution that includes compensation and preventive cooperation. This is an opportunity for us to make amends and demonstrate good faith. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the Tribunal for guiding this process with fairness and wisdom.
Mr. President, I would like to use this agreement. This is a positive step that help to resolve a difficult situation in ensuring the safety and protection of our community in the future. On behalf of the Republic of India, I thank the Tribunal and our Italian colleagues for their constructive engagement. We look forward to signing the formal protocol and to strengthen cooperation that I have planned.
Once all parties have agreed, we will draft a formal settlement that will address this point. We expect the settlement document to be signed by both parties at the end of the session. I thank all the parties who have contributed to this constructive discussion, and I hope that we all reach a mutually beneficial outcome. We have listened to the argument and seen the evidence presented by both parties. Next, we will continue the deliberation process to make a final decision. After carefully considering the document, evidence, and legal arguments submitted by both parties, the tribunal decided as follows. First, jurisdiction. The tribunal held the incident occurred in the India exclusive economic zone, which given India limited functional jurisdiction. However, as per the general principle of international maritime law and Article 97 of UNCLOS, only the flag state of the ship shall be competent to exercise criminal jurisdiction over military personnel on the part of the ship of the state. The tribunal thus held the Italy had exclusive jurisdiction over two marines, Massimiliano Latore and Salvatore Gironi.
To military immunity, the tribunal held that the Italian military personnel were acting on behalf of the state and in the course of official duties. They were therefore entitled to immunity from foreign criminal jurisdiction as provided for in the doctrine of functional immunity for acts of states, Acta Julia Italia. However, the tribunal stated immunity does not constitute moral justification. Italy remains responsible for the actions that killed 2 Indian nationals.
Third, obligation to the referee. The tribunal unanimously decided that Italy has violated India's right to ensure the safety of their children. It's easy. Italy is obliged to make full reparation, including financial compensation, to the families of the victims in accordance with the principle of full reparation under international law. The amount of compensation was determined through bilateral negotiation with a recommendation that a minimum of €1 million be paid to the families of the victims and the safety program for Indian prisoners.
Fourth, cost of the proceeding. Each party shall bear its own legal cost. The cost of the proceeding shall be shared equally. It's acceptable to both parties?
Yes, Mr. President.
The Arbitral Tribunal hereby declared the dispute between the Republic of Italy and the Republic of India regarding the Erika taxi incident to settle under international law. The tribunal hopes that this decision paves the way of the reconciliation between the two countries and strengthen the principle applicability and international basis of law. We have reached our final decision within appropriate time. I closing today's hearing. Thank you to all those who have attended. For Agent of Italy or Agent of India, please.
On the behalf of the registry, I thank the parties and the tribunal for their participation in this proceeding. The article will now be drawn. Please rise. This concludes this hearing. Thank you.
Alert posisi kalian. Langsung.